Happy Cinco de Mayo. Hope everybody's doing all right, doing well. We're continuing on with the Industrial Revolution. Yesterday we took a look at why did it start in England, and we basically saw that they had all the necessary resources and ingredients to industrialization, including motivation, the possibility of making more money. They had vast markets to sell to, which meant the more they could produce, the more they could sell. But we saw that with the Industrial Revolution, obviously, comes a lot of innovation. And so, talking about innovation, we noticed a couple of new machines that were built. The spinning jenny, and the flying shuttle, as you can see here. Basically, innovations that made the textile industry that much faster. There's going to be other innovations, of course. But what's going to end up happening is one of the major innovations is going from what's called cottage industry, where various people work in their own homes, at their own pace, amongst their own people, to factory work. And this is a significant adjustment in lifestyle and in culture. In fact, a very difficult transition was taking place for people. Going from being your own boss and setting your own work hours to, and really a lot of them experiencing only intermittent work. Think about how a farmer might have to, really struggle with the transition from working, certain months of the year harder than others, some months being preparatory, other months being just a matter of waiting for the weather to be ready for planting or whatever it might be. To working nonstop and working according to someone else's schedule and working indoors. In some ways, this is sort of catastrophic, actually, for culture and really damaging for people as they were, lacking the healthy aspects of working outdoors in the sunlight and so forth. This transition's not been that good for human history, actually. But one of the things that we see there is this system of factory work actually included really, really strict treatment and punishment towards the factory workers as they struggled to transition. In this picture, although this is a little later than the time period we're talking about, because photography doesn't really take root until the 1850s, but you see obviously men, women, and children, and all of them were basically exposed to very, very harsh treatments by those who owned the factories as they tried to instill this cultural shift, because speed was the name of the game. As different kinds of inventions are going to make working around the clock more and more possible, workers are going to be forced to work in shifts, and it's going to be basically nonstop around the clock as the light bulb makes it possible for people to work during the night. So all kinds of shifts are taking place. But one of them that's maybe most fundamental is how people get from place to place. We start to see the onset of railroads. And what you're looking at here is basically a prototype of the first steam engine used in a rail scenario. And it's made by Richard Trevithick. And you can see it's 1804, and this could pull 10 tons and 70 people, but could only move 5 miles per hour. So not necessarily breaking any records in a lot of ways. 5 miles per hour it's more than a 10-minute mile. Maybe sort of a very quick walking pace or jogging pace. But what ends up happening is a very quick succession of improvements on the rails. The second sort of big improvement came from George Stephenson and design that was called the Blucher. And this design meant they could go faster and pull more people and more cargo. And then what really ends up happening that kind of breaks it open is this design, which is called the rocket. And one of the innovations is that with the rocket, the train is going to be riding on top of the rails instead of sort of down inside the rails. And the rocket, it wouldn't be fast by our standards, but 16 miles per hour. And what ends up happening is they're able to move people and product between cities much more rapidly and much more easily. Shipping used to be very expensive. Imagine, having to ship something across the ocean or across roads that you never knew how well they were going to function. In the United States, in the colonies, there's lots of stories of how travel took much, much longer. There's a receipt that's pretty famous, shows up in a lot of textbooks, of somebody ordering a piece of furniture from in Connecticut and living like 20 miles away. And the delivery receipt said, will be delivered sometime, in April, because basically they didn't know when the roads would be clear enough. Another famous story that gives you a sense of it is the story of Benjamin Franklin moving from Boston to Philadelphia. What would be maybe a 7-hour drive for us, depending on traffic, for him was a 9-day journey. So what the railroad does then is it really makes it possible to count on shipping and make it faster. And what that does is it drops shipping prices. And the reason that's so important is the drop in shipping prices means that the price of product can go down. You can still make a profit selling your food or your cloth or whatever, but charge less because you are spending less out of your pocket to ship your product. And what that ends up doing is it creates actually greater profit margins. More people affording to buy, more people can buy at that price point, more money is being made. And so they have more capital, right? And we talked about capital yesterday. Capital could be anything from money to labor to knowledge, right? And so what we end up seeing with this capital then is that the trains, these railroads, become essential to creating more margin to accelerate the pace of the Industrial Revolution. Now people are making more money with efficient factory work, efficient machinery, and efficient shipping. They're making more money so they can reinvest it. It's called capitalism, reinvesting the money. And what ends up happening is they can basically use that money to innovate. More and more machinery, more and more application of the technology that they've got. For instance, the steam engine that drove the railroads will soon be used to drive steamboats as well, up rivers or across oceans. And the advantage of being an industrial nation then becomes really acute, really important. And so what's going to happen is England's going to try to do their best to maintain that advantage over other countries. They're going to start to write laws that say you can't take your particular knowledge anywhere else. And what we want to see is, how did that knowledge end up getting proliferated? How did it start to move to the continent of Europe and also to North America? And so that will be our topic tomorrow as we look at some of the first factories being founded in the United States. In the meantime, have a great Cinco de Mayo, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.